everyone, welcome back to RTS. And what are we going to do today at RTS? Record the story, what we've been doing all month long, and today is day 21 of load, and I am 20 for 20 when it comes to the load event. I can't believe that, but like I said, I've been putting a couple other things on the back burner and working on this, you know, because it's a paid challenge. You want to get your money's worth, plus a challenge is to push yourself, and so that's what it's been about this month for me. So today's prompt that Alice gave us was the Bad Charlie video, and it had to do with two little boys and one getting bit by the other, and I guess it went viral and that type of thing. So the prompt is to scrapbook about an injury to you or your siblings or a cousin or a friend, someone in your family. And I've already done that because I did one earlier in the load event that was about my sister falling down the stairs. And so I thought, well, I've already done that. And then the technique prompt was to take a chunk or a bite out of something, paper or an embellishment on your page, which I thought was cute. The guest designer today, she did a very cute layout, and her three children, they all had accidents, you know, little minor accidents in 1 week, and I thought, oh, you know, what a way to document that, because you may not remember, but you know, each kid had an injury in the same week, so she did a great job with that layout. So what I'm going to do today is I am going to work on a sketch that Vanessa and Lisa is, you know, they're hosting right now the Sketched Inspired series on their YouTube channels, and I'll have the link below. And I'm going to be working on the first sketch they showed in their series, and I'll have the link to their video that shows what they created with the same sketch. So this is an 8.5 by 11, but I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger and convert it into a 12 by 12. So that is the plan. And so I knew since this was going to be story based, I wouldn't have a lot of photos. And then my daughter and I was talking about this, and Alice gives us the prompts at midnight, and we were up and we were just chatting away and having fun and laughing. And so I read the prompt. She said, you know, Mom, you should tell the story about, and I'll talk about it in a minute. And then it just started a whole floodgate of memories, and it's things I've talked about and I've shared with her, but I've never documented it. So today's prompt is going to lead me into 6 little mini stories of my childhood. And I'm sorry, I have to take a drink. I'm so sorry about that. The allergies and the pollen count is so high lately. It's crazy. So even though I only have 4 photos, I have 6 little mini stories. And I'm just going to say this. I love load. I absolutely love load, because one of my goals this year was to create 12 pages just about me. And so here is going to be 1 page, you know, a 1-page layout with 6 little mini stories. And yes, I have an actual heritage photo, and so I'm using that. And so I'm you know, and I just went on the internet to give me some photos as a representation, and I printed them in black and white because I didn't know what kind of collection I was going to go with, because, you know, it has to be a fast page. So okay, we got a bunny, a dog, roller skates, and my little brother. So I have 6 mini stories, and I'll talk about that coming up. So I just can't stress how much I love load. So I decided, since this was about an injury that happened to you, and so there's like these little mini incidents that happened to me, I thought of, you know, you are a survivor. And so, you know, of course, this Life Simple Stories I think it was from 2015. Yes. You know, that collection just, you know, it was such a great collection. I think they came out with another version. I haven't really got my hands on that yet. So I haven't really played with this much, and so I thought that's what I'm going to use. So I know there's some words in there that says I am and survivor and all those other things. So I'm going to play off of that. And I'm going to kind of have these as little lighthearted stories, because looking back, you know, they were not lighthearted at the time, but, you know, looking back, you know, they're little, I'm going to make them lighthearted. So, and then the thing is when you talk about these stories and they're in your brain, and then you're talking to your siblings or other family members, and then my siblings, we've been talking all day about, you know, all morning about this. And so it's just, I just love what load does. I just love load. Okay, so I'm going to work with the Simple Stories I Am collection. And if I look at the sketch, these, you know, you could do it one of 2 ways. You could just get one multicolored piece of paper and just have a mat, and that would be as simple as could be. Or you could take some scraps or you can take some strips. And you know, this collection has a lot of different color, and I think I want to get a representation of these different colors, but I won't be cutting into 12 by 12, so I'm probably going to use cut aparts or something to get this representation of all the color. And then of course it has some stitching, and I'm going to talk later how I'm going to do stitching, because if you think I'm going to break out my stitching templates, I don't have time for that, but I'm going to show you what I am going to do to get my stitching on there. Okay, so let's get cracking. I just need smaller pieces of a lot of color. So of course, you know, there's the floral. I'm not going to cut up 12 12s. I mean, why? I'm going to need a mat, but you know what I thought? For these mats, I could use those, what are they, 8 by 8 or 6 by 8 cut aparts. I was just, and the reason I thought about that, oh, what do I got going on here? Okay, see, now here's some words. Fearless. Well, I wasn't happy. I didn't feel loved. Unstoppable and strong. See, some of those words, so I'm just going to pull those because some of those words will just be so appropriate to use. And there's the stickers, so they're not going to go far. Well, I have 2 of those. Well, do we even talk about 2 of that? So, okay. So the stickers, and I know on the sticker sheet there is a bike, and one of my mini stories has to do with a bike. So that's going to be perfect. So you know what that means. Crack out the foam tape, right? Oh, yeah, so those are going to be good. Did I pull that or not? Oh, is that the same? Oh, that's the same sheet. See, and I could get representation of colors that way. Oh, we're going to keep working. Okay, there's crepe paper. There's American Crafts. So you see what I do. I talked about this in another video. When I have a collection and I have other papers that I think go with it, there's more crepe paper. These all go with the collection. So I just stick them right in with my collection. That way they're there. See, and there's I am. And so I didn't pick out any letter stickers because I'm going to use something from the collection. Either I cut these out or stickers or things like that. Or I could even just use that. Do I want to do with the gold? Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do gold. Oh, okay, right here's a couple different options. I am. So those are making the cut. And this is what I was talking about earlier, and I didn't finish my thought. You see, I have these 2 little mats. One for the photos and then one to start with your title or journaling. And I have trouble using these or these 6 by 8s. Is that what that is? Yeah, that's a 6. No, yeah, that's a 6 by 8. I have trouble using those, so I could use those as matting. Oh, yes. Okay. So that could be my title. Oh, and there's more words. Strong. Oh, survivor. Yeah, okay, there we go. So see, that's probably, I'll just use some of those words or on the letter stickers. This will be my matting. And then come to think of it, look at this. I could use these as my colors because if I just, well, I could just cut them out this way. Yeah, okay. Boy, wouldn't that be a great use of that whole sheet? You know what, isn't that something? I don't think I'm going to have a 12 by 12 piece of pattern paper to use. Right there. That is exactly why I remembered this whole collection for that right there. Because as women, we can say this so many times in our lives, can't we? But I'm going to do a lighthearted approach for this page. Sometimes I have to keep things lighthearted. Sometimes I can go down a spiral. And I just don't want to go there. And there's some more of those. Oh, that would just be perfect. See, there's some more. I think what I'll do is I'll use these ones, the ones that does not have text. I would use the one that has a pattern. See, right there's 3, 4. That's exactly what I'm going to do. And there's the I am, but I'm just not feeling gold today. I'm feeling old, but I'm not feeling gold. God, that was a good joke. Oh, but wouldn't this be a pretty mat? Do I sacrifice? Oh, see? When I have foil, you know, because we have to pay extra now for foil treatments, do I sacrifice that? But you know what I could do? This is Simple Stories. I have a paper pad that I spent like $5 on. Someone remind me to go pull that out. See, if you have foil treatment, I just can't do a B-side for the foil treatments. That is just a beautiful floral. That is a beautiful, beautiful floral. Okay, so my papers weren't hard to pick. Even though I don't have a background, and I'll probably, well, you know what? I guess it's going to depend on how much pattern I have. Yeah. So I'm probably just going to pick a piece of cardstock. And since I'm using black and white, do I go with white or do I go with cream? Oh, well, that doesn't matter. Don't even get hung up on that. Okay, so there's my papers. There's my sketch. And I'll have the link below for Vanessa and Lisa's sketch that will show the video doing them the same exact sketch and layout. There's my photos. Now, I do have this chipboard that came with this. And isn't this just great how these chipboards just... I haven't even opened this. So when I open this, I will pop all of these out and I'll just put them in a little baggie. I don't deal with that kind of stuff. I don't have the patience nor the time. But see, there's that I definitely, I think the black might pop since I'm doing these black and white. So there's my title. I'm going to say that's my title. So then what else did I do? I pulled this rule of washi because it has all these little girls. This came from Hobby Lobby. And it says $19.99, but I can guarantee you I didn't pay $19.99. I would never pay $20 for a roll of washi. It would have to be laced with peanut M&Ms for me to spend $20 for a tube of washi. So I thought these little girls, you know, since this is about me, I just happened to see it and I just pulled it. And the colors all go so well. So if you have this tube, what is it called? Girly. It goes really good with the Simple Stories I Am collection. So what else did I pull? Okay. So since I have 6 little mini stories, and I know what they are, I have a bunny, a doggy, roller skates, my brother. So I wanted to get a little bit of embellishment because I knew the Simple Stories wouldn't have it because it mostly had globes and birds. So I just pulled a few things that it was nearby. And so, of course, there's the bike because one of my little mini stories has to do with a bike and this Converse sneaker. And speaking of that Converse sneaker, remember I said in another video when I see certain product and it reminds me of a story I want to tell, I'll put it in a separate place. Right there is one of them. Okay? And I knew I kept that just to tell this story. And so then there's this bunny. I thought, well, that's going to work, that little bunny. And then I have these October Afternoon. I love this collection. This is called Saturday Morning. I think, was this their last one? It was just right on target. You can do a lot of different topics, especially if you're, you know, near the big 5-0. This was representative of our childhood, but I saw this little boy here, and right there's one, and he's laughing, and I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to put that. I think that's the one I'm going to put. And then, of course, this has the word brother, and so I knew. And some of these are just right by my desk. And then here's another October Afternoon, and this was from the Daily Flash, and oh boy, did we ever fall in love with October Afternoon in this Daily Flash line. Oh my. So there's that little doggy. Okay, so then what else do I have here? I'm just pulling little bits and bobs, and will I use all of them? Well, I know I'm using that for sure, but it gives me choices. And then these are not very far because I'm working on an album using this, my month review album. And it said, then this happened. So I thought those are nice. 99 cents for all of those, a Tuesday morning. That was last year when I got those. And then, of course, I knew that Maggie Holmes, her one line had a bunny. And I don't know if I'll use that, but I just knew it had that, and it was already laying on my desk. And I thought these little label stickers would be good for some clusters. So I have a nice little pile of embellishments to play with. Since I'm going to have 6 little mini stories, I think I might just create them as little mini stories. I'm not sure how that'll work. And then the last thing I had is I have this little box of embellishments. This was one of my leftovers from load in February, and I just have it near my desk, and it has little bits and bobs. And oh, there's a cassette tape. I'm holding on to that one first, maybe. Remember this little flares. Oh, this is my story. Huh. Okay, well, there we go. So it's got little bits and bobs, and I always just keep something like that handy. I like taking a little box of these things along, like when I'm going on a trip or something, because there's just a variety of things you could do with. And this is just one of those little iris boxes. And one of these might be coming up in a giveaway soon, so keep an eye out for that. And then when I have leftover stickers, that's what I do. I just put them on the inside of the lid. Well, yes, I do. I think that's the lazy approach, isn't it? I think. So, and then I did have this little girl, which I knew because I have like 3 or 4 of these little girls, and I thought since this was a story about me, I just happened to pull that. And it's pretty bad when you can remember what you have, but when you purchase things on purpose, I think you can remember. more of what you have. So I just pulled that little girl sense. Now, why get all those on there? No, but I can definitely play and have fun, and that's what I'm going to do today, play and have fun. I did enough yard work yesterday to choke a horse, so I'm taking it easy today. So today is about playing. So I will be back. Let's see, what will I be back with? Yes, I'll be back with a finished page, because there's something I do want to tell you how I'm going to do my stitching today. So I'll just do that when I come back with my finished page. Okay, stay tuned. Okay, I'm back with my finished page, and so excited how it turned out. Don't you just love a page that turns out better than what you planned in your head? And oh, today was one of those days. And I had more time to play today, so that's a bonus. So if you look at the sketch that I'm using, which is part of a challenge, and I'll have the link for Vanessa and Lisa's channel below. This was the sketch they suggested, and mine looks pretty much the same, except I flushed mine more to the left. And how this sketch, everything's more all vertical, I kind of moved mine over. And that's because I needed to get this story cluster in, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay, so the first thing I did was I decided on white cardstock because my photos were black and white, even though in the collection it's kind of like has a touch of cream, but we get over that, right? We're mixing both nowadays and we're having fun with it. And then I just matted this on some of that crate paper that I had put with the collection, and you can see it has more of an off-white. We're not doing that anymore. I'm over that. I'm mixing them and I'm having fun with them. So I suggest you should too. Just mix it and have fun. So I want to talk about first about the stitching, and I have a little bit of talk about stitching. So I'm going to move this just for a minute. Okay, and I'm going to get out my mat because you know I'm going to do something here. Okay, so in the sketch, and I just lost it. Okay, in the sketch, you see how they had stitching reference here to the left. Okay, and then in the finished layout, there was stitching the whole around the page, and there was even stitching around this main cluster here. So you can do it however you want to do it. I mean, that's the beauty of a sketch, right? You don't even have to do the stitching, but I wanted to, since it was part of a challenge, I'll try to, do those things. So what you can do, which is the obvious, take it to your sewing machine, right? Take it to your sewing machine and have fun. And well, I don't do that very often, but I'm hoping this year that's one thing I can change. But you can get this represented using your sewing machine, and a lot of people do it quick, okay? But that's one option. The second option is that you would use stitching templates, and this is so relaxing and so fun to do, but it takes so much time. So I knew when I'm doing a fast page, this is not any options for me. But that's another way you can get your stitching in. You can actually poke the holes, use thread, and create that stitch. Now, if you like Scrapbook Generations, you know that Allison Davis does that practically on every one of her pages. That is her signature embellishment, is stitching. Then the other option is to use stamps that have the stitching motif. And I've talked about these before. This is just a beautiful stamp set. And if you can find it, grab it. I'm telling you, grab it. Don't think twice. And even if you got to pay full price, this is a wonderful stamp set. And since Bo Bunny no longer manufactures Bo Bunny, I say if you can find this. What is it called? Let me see if I can find a name. Oh, I know what it is. It's called Stitches. Yes, that's what it's called. Stitches. This is a beautiful stamp set. It is one of my top, it's in the top 10, if not the top 5. Okay, so that's how you could have did the stitching. Okay, I didn't feel like doing that. I took an even easier route. Okay, so what I did was, this is an old trick, and I'm going to use something. Some of you may already have it in your stash. I'm just trying to get my things here. Okay, now I'm going to get my ink here. Okay, and this is my favorite black ink. It's called India Ink Black by Hero Arts. Okay, hardest thing about that is getting the lid off. Okay, so then what you can do is that you can just take a ruler. Of course, you're going to protect your surface. And you know what we're simply going to use? Now, you would put your ruler, and I would suggest using a longer ruler than you need. Okay, this is, what, 18 inches? Yes. And then what are we going to use? We're going to use it would be a sewing tracing wheel. Okay, I think they use this for patterns and such. So I'll try to get the technical term from my mom. So anyways, you just take this wheel, run it back and forth on your pad, okay? And then you do a couple inches at a time. And I'll show you why in a minute. You don't want to do more than a couple inches at a time. Okay? Look at that. Is that not fast or what? I mean, oh, I love it. I was playing around so much. I don't even know where my paper is. I was playing around so much and I was just having too much fun. So I'll show you why in a minute. You don't want to go. That's the whole way. Okay, you see? The more you use it, the more it's going to fade. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just whatever you want. I wanted a more pronounced look. So I only went a couple inches at a time. And I'll tell you something else you don't want to do. Okay, we're going to do this again. And I'm just going to load up my wheel. And that was the whole way. See how that's a little lighter than this. But the advantage of doing it that way, you know, it's supposed to look handmade, so nothing's perfect. If it's homemade, it's not perfect. That's the beauty of homemade, right? If you only do a couple of inches at a time, you can run into this problem. And I'll do something on purpose. Okay, just hang in there with me. Okay, and it's simply, all you're doing. So you see what happens. I mean, I stayed pretty good. That's pretty good. But, yeah, let me see if I can make a mistake on purpose here. Okay, it won't do it. I can't make a mistake here. See, that's how simple it is. But what I want to say is, if you go and then you don't get it lined up again, that's sometimes what you can have happen. Okay? But there's nothing wrong with that look either. So, honestly, is this just not the most simplest thing either? So you just use one of these. I think you can get them. If they're $3, I'd be surprised. I think they're maybe like 96 cents or something. Like I said, I'll get the term from my mom, but I think it's called a tracing wheel. They used to use them when you're making patterns. But look how simple that is. I'm just going to town here. So I just wanted to show that. And the only thing I would say is when you're doing this, definitely use a ruler longer than, you don't have to, but if you go back and forth, okay, there we go. You see how if you go back and forth, you get that blurry look. So I suggest when you're using this, I think I just need to stop, right? Just go forward, don't go back, okay, because then you can get, well, it didn't show a mistake, but you can get some mistakes there if you keep going back and forth. Just go forward. Okay, now, so then say you do one line and you want it to look a little more homemade, just move your ruler a tad, just a tad, and see, you can get, and then you can put another one right on top of that by using a ruler, okay, so you get that homemade look. So, I probably took too long to show that, but that was just too much fun. That is a tip and trick to do fast stitches without a sewing machine, without a needle and a thread, without a template, without a stamp. This is all you need right here. Black ink, a ruler, and a tracing wheel. And of course, you know you want to protect your surface. Isn't that just the best thing? And it's so affordable. Love it. Okay, so that was enough playing. Sorry. Oh, I just love doing that, especially when I fast page. And sometimes, let's just be honest, I get lazy. Now, I do want to show something. That is a tracing wheel, and it's metal. So what does that mean? That means the ink will never absorb into that metal wheel. So you definitely want to make sure you take a baby wipe or a cloth or something and keep running this over till you get that ink off. And you know, sometimes you be careful with these tracing wheels. They can be a tad sharp. And if you're accident prone like me, yeah. So just keep cleaning off your wheels. Okay? And then I just put that right with all my other ones. Oh, here's another one. See? I have more than one. Okay. Too fun. You can get them at Walmart, any kind of place that sell sewing supplies. Okay, so let's back to the page. Wasn't that just a fun alternative to get stitching on a page? I think so. That's an old school technique. That was before all these beautiful stamps came out. Okay, so what do we do? Okay, so if you went by the sketch, they had either these long strips or scraps or anything that had these patterns. And so I thought, well, my mat's going to take up a lot. I didn't need to use whole strips. But I simply, if I can find my pile of stuff, I cut all these 2x2s from that line, and that's what I used. Remember, I didn't use any that had any text because I knew I was going to get busy. And they're just patterns. And here's the thing. Do you see a lot of it? No, but it's a grounding base. It's there. You don't have to see all of it. Because on this page, my mood and feel is not the paper. My mood and feel is this right here, this story cluster. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And I think I'm going to have to get a drink. Oh. Okay. I did want to show you something on my 2x2 squares. Another something I did. Okay. Oh, man, don't you just love when you have time to play? Love it. Okay, so what I did was I took, old school again, distressing tool, and that's all I did. This is from Close to My Heart, but you can, I have some from Heidi Swap. You can get them from Stampin' Up, or you can just simply use some sandpaper. Okay, so, and some people I've seen can use their fingernails. I don't like paper cuts, so I don't do that. But, again, and the reason why I did this, I didn't plan this, is that when I cut these 2x2s apart, they didn't all measure up. And so one way, when you have something that doesn't measure up, and you can't butt them up end to end because they don't match, take your distressing tool, and it won't matter if they don't match because you'll never see it. And so that's another tip and trick, how to get around something that doesn't match. Distress it. And then it'll just look like on purpose it was supposed to look like that. It's okay if it gets a little wonky. Okay, so what next do I have on my list? Okay, my photo grid. So, you know, when I started the beginning of the video, I said I was going to get 6 stories on here. Do you know I ended up getting 7? And I'll tell you why in a minute. I'm just amazed. I have 7 mini stories on this page. Okay, so my photos, I did them in a grid. And then because this was my special photo, I matted it and then I put it on foam and I tilted it just to give this a little more precedence on the page because I wanted it to have more presence because this was my special photo. These were just representation of my story. So the other thing was I wanted to use these. Remember I had this whole stack of things I had picked out because they had elements here and there, and I wanted to just get them, and I was going to do them like a little mini story on the thing. Well, I tried that, and what happened was everything just looked too sloppy and too messy, and everything just got too busy. And I thought, well, that's not the look I was going for. So I took these elements that represented what my stories were about. I have 7 mini stories on there. And I took something from each one of those. I think I used everything I had in that pile except one thing. And I just put them out on wax paper. And I took that wax paper and I made a story cluster. And so this is like a storyline. Okay, so then as I was doing this, I noticed when I had these elements down here, I needed to have a grounding base. So I thought, well, I'll just use some washi. Well, would you know, in this washi roll, there was a roll that had these envelopes. And I guess because my mind was working on this childhood stories, and all of a sudden it popped in my mind another story. And I'll tell real quickly what my stories are, because they're all, well, they weren't fun then, but it's fun to tell these little stories. So quickly, I have 7 little stories. And so the puppy is on here because I had a puppy that froze to death. And then I have a bunny on here because someone killed my pet bunny, or it somehow got situated in the cage and the wire killed it. I don't know. Let's just say he had a big gash. Okay, like from top to bottom. Okay, so then the roller skates, honest to goodness. And these are all incidents that happened that, you know, they're not traumatic by any means, but, you know, they're like, you have to learn things when you're little. So I went roller skating for the first and only time in my life, and would you believe someone stole my shoes, my sneakers? And not only stole my sneakers, but in that roller rink that night, that person stole every size, whatever size I was. Say it was a size 8. He stole every pair. And so I was asking my mom about this today, and she said, you know, I think he wanted it for his children or something. Like, I don't know if that's what they ended up finding out what happened, but honest to goodness. And I was traumatized by that because the next day I had to go to school wearing these ugly Buster Brown shoes, and I still can remember what they looked like and how they felt, and it was just, I was so embarrassed, but you move on, okay? So then my little brother, let's just say there was an incident with a certain type of, I can't really say the word anymore because it's a kind of a sensitive subject and I don't want to make light of it. But let's just say there was an incident with my boob, and he aimed something at me and I had to get something removed from my boob. Okay, so he says he doesn't even remember, but Yeah, he did. And then I remember that I smashed his fingers. I mean, literally, I had to open the door to get his fingers back out of a truck door. Maybe I was getting back at him for the booby incident. But anyways, we were just little. What was the other stories? Okay, I have represented the bike on here because my entire childhood, and I'm going to be 50 years old soon. Well, next year. I've always wanted a bike with a basket. I've never got one. I have never got one. Maybe when I turn 50, I should go buy myself a bike with a basket. And so then also this, when I saw this representation of these envelopes, it reminded me when I was little, I was my aunt that lived in another state, we were pen pals, and she wrote me a letter. I hadn't heard from her a while, and I got one, and here my uncle had died. And so I read it in that letter, and it was one of the first deaths I had to deal with when I was a child. So I think that was... yeah, I think that was all my 7 little stories. So can you imagine? I got 7 little mini stories, and I just wrote about them on here briefly because, you know, if someone's reading it, you know, and it's interactive, they may ask you what those questions, you know, more about it. And so then, of course, I got the sneakers on there. I got the puppy, the bunny, the bike, the word brother. Of course, you know, Zap because of the booby incident, and me as a little girl. And then I added these little flower powers because they reminded me of the 70s. So my title is I Am Sharing My Story. That's my title. And I'll bring my cluster, my main story cluster, a little closer so you can see. So you see how I have dimension. I have a couple things on foam tape, and I just glued everything down. It's as simple as it could be. And then this one here, I did get that flare in that says, this is my story, with a couple of little supporting elements there. And so, of course, on the back, you know, I covered my brads with washi, and I will tell you that putting this little piece of scrap paper on this roll that I have just struggled with is really a big helpful tip. So I'm glad I'm doing that. It seems like I can get it off the roll better. So that is how that turned out. So then I did add some word stickers. Strong, fearless, doing my best, and brave on my photos because I wanted to get a little something on there. So 7 mini stories on a layout. I'm just absolutely tickled. Okay, so I want to share one more thing. Remember, I was talking about these icons. And one thing I want to say is when you have this type of product in your inventory, or if you're going and buying some new things, if you see something like this, don't overlook these items, even what you already have, because you may look at something and it may spark a story. Like, you know, the pancakes, the little boy, the squirrel, anything. And so if it sparks a story, put it in a separate area in your room, in a separate little box or a basket or bin. And then also, too, just keep a little notebook going of the stories you want to tell. That's how I'm getting my stories on, because whenever I think of one, I write it down. Or if I see a product, especially this Converse sneaker, I knew that I wanted to tell the story about me ever. I went roller skating one time in my life and my sneakers got stolen. I mean, and then everybody else's, it was, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So I think that was all I needed to say. I hope you got some ideas of a different way to do the stitching. You don't have to have a sewing machine. You don't have to have a template. You don't even have to have a stamp. Buy yourself one of those inexpensive tracing wheels. Use your black ink or any ink. And there you have some instant stitching. And it goes so quick. Well, you see, how many lines did I do within a matter of a few seconds? Just use your ruler and line it up. And I think that was it I needed to say. Please make sure you go look on Vanessa and Lisa's channel. They'll be listed below for these. Do some fun layouts. Get out of your comfort zone. Enter in for some prizes. And thank you, girls, for doing a great challenge. It's been fun. I got 2. I don't know if I can do the next one. We're going to try. So I think that was it. Don't forget to look around your inventory. Don't forget to look around your product. See what stories are inspiring, what you can get done. And, you know, record the story, right? Okay, come back to RTS because you never know what we're going to learn. Bye.